Speakerphone. Okay. All right, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Ready. Okay. We are going to do today, being that we're all gearing up for Nissan. It's right before Purim, but we're gearing up already. We're excited for what's happening in a month from now, Chodesh Nissan. So I'd like to, and Yud Aleph Nissan. So I'd like to learn with you the talks that the Rebbe gave in preparation for Yud Aleph Nissan, the last Yud Aleph Nissan that the Rebbe was talking to us. So there's two sichos here. There is Shabbos, there is Ches Nissan, Shabbos Hagodol, and then there is on Yud Aleph Nissan itself. So what we're going to learn first is the sicha from Shabbos. This is in Tafshin Nun Aleph, 5751, page 395, Sefer HaSichos. And let's do it. It's going to take us hopefully 2 weeks, the Shabbos Hagodol one, and then we can do Yud Aleph Nissan, and hopefully by the time we're even not even just in the middle of all of this, we should already celebrate the complete redemption. What is unique about this piece is that the Rebbe is talking a lot about the Moshe Rabbeinu and the age of Moshe Rabbeinu being 90 at the time of the Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 at the time of the redemption, but that the special capital of Tehillim that's called Tefillah LaMoshe is capital Tzaddik in Tehillim, and it's related to Mashiach, whose power of the Geula is through the power of number 90. And that year the Rebbe was becoming, Yud Aleph Nissan, the Rebbe was entering into his 90th year. He was 89 years old, entering into his 90th year, and we started saying Kapitel Tzaddik. And on this, the Rebbe is talking all about the significance of Moshe Rabbeinu Bechlal, why the redemption has to come through Moshe, what's the power of Moshe, and the idea of Goyal Rishon hu Goyal Achron, the first Redeemer is the latter Redeemer, and what that is related to 90. And to make interesting note, that even though Shnas HaTishim, the year of 90, happened quite a while ago, this year is also, regarding the Rebbe, an Inyan of 90. As I mentioned, it's 90. The last classes we were talking about 68 years. That's from Yud Shvat, 68, and now it's 69 years. But regarding from when the Rebbe got connected in a direct way to become eventually the seventh Chabad Rebbe, and that's happened on Yud Daled Nissan, and we're celebrating now 90 years of Yud Daled Nissan. So this is Shnas HaTishim. Shnas HaTishim the Shnas HaTishim that the Rebbe is talking about over here in 1991 is the 90th year of his birth, but now is the 90th year of the Rebbe's marriage, and which is really his connection as a leader to the Jewish people, the leader to Chabad, and via Chabad to the Jewish people. So it's very, very appropriate to learn this Farbrengen, and let's start. The Rebbe begins in Sif Aleph saying as follows, that the content of Chodesh Nissan, which is the Chodesh HaGeula, because we have the Yom Tov of Pesach, which is Man Chereseinu, the time of our redemption. So that the content of Nissan, which is the Chodesh HaGeula, is specifically emphasized on Shabbos before Pesach. In other words, Shabbos before Pesach, which is Shabbos Hagodol, carries within it a tremendous the day of Shabbos Hagodol expresses the essence of Pesach, and to a very, very great degree, the essence of the entire month of Nissan. Why? Because Nissan is all about miracles. The word Nissan comes from the word Nes. So Nissan is all about miracles. Especially since Nissan has two nuns in it, and the Chazal say when you see a nun in your dream, it indicates a miracle. So two nuns means not only miracles, but they means spectacular miracles. Nisei Nisim, extraordinary miracles. So Chodesh Nissan is a Yom Tov associated with miracles, and Taka, what happened? The Geula of Mitzrayim happened, which was the Geula which came about through tremendous miracles. We also know the future redemption is also going to come about in Chodesh Nissan, which is the Chodesh of miracles. Now, this Nissan, these powerful miracles, are connected particularly to the Shabbos before Pesach. Why? Number one, Shabbos before Pesach benches the Yom Tov of Pesach. That was the climax of the miracles happens on Pesach. Shabbos before Pesach is the power for Pesach. So it's the power for those miracles. But in addition to that, we know that it's called Shabbos Hagodol. And why is it called Shabbos Hagodol? Because a big miracle happened then. That's what it says in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in general, but the Alter Rebbe says a big nace happened. What was the big nace? The big nace was that there was a civil war, that the Bechorim of Mitzrayim, the firstborn of the Egyptians, campaigned to release the Jewish people. It was Mitzrayim that was always holding the Jewish people enslaved in captivity, and one of the worst abuse and oppressions of the Jewish people. Now the very Egyptians, and not the Egyptians, but the most powerful of the Egyptians, the Bechorim of Mitzrayim, campaigned to release the Jewish people. And because of that, I like to explain the Shulchan Aruch that they heard about Makas Bechores, and they basically witnessed already all the previous 9 plagues, and they saw how accurate Moshe Rabbeinu was, so they can basically bet on the words of Moshe to be right. So therefore, they came to Paro, and Paro didn't want to listen to them, so that's why your civil war broke out. That's the big nace. And after they kach, that's why we have a minhag on Shabbos Hagodol to actually start saying the Haggadah, as the Alter Rebbe says regarding to this day in Shulchan Aruch. He says, "B'Shabbos Hagodol is haschalas hageula v'anisim." The beginning of the geula and the miracles is Shabbos Hagodol, which is interesting because the miracles have been happening already 9 months before that, or 10 months before that. The 10 Malchus. And Shabbos Hagodol was another. But there's still that Alter Rebbe says that the beginning of the Geula began already on Shabbos. Even though Yetzias Mitzrayim took place on a Thursday that year, but the actual beginning of the redemption happened on Shabbos. So we need to understand, okay? That's what it says. Once we accept this, then we can understand why Shabbos Hagodol, since it's the beginning of the miracles, and since Chodesh Nissan is a Chodesh of miracles, we can understand why that Shabbos Hagodol emphasizes the power very strongly of the whole month of Chodesh Nissan. But we still need to understand what's the big deal of this particular nace that happened on Shabbos Hagodol. Why is the nace, the Rebbe asked 2 questions. Number one, why is the nace of Lamaka Mitzrayim B'Choreim considered such a big nace? I mean, it's a miracle, but there's a lot of other things that happened that were kind of really spectacular, and we don't call them nace Gadol. But this was called a nace Gadol. What is such a great nace dafka with this miracle of this Makkah Mitzrayim B'Choreim? And number 2, why is this called the Haschalas HaGeula? Why isn't this just considered another piece of the leading up miracles that led up? I mean, you can technically say that Makas Arbe, the 7th Makkah, that's the beginning of the Geula. Because you see, Pari begins to negotiate. He starts breaking. He's already said, I'm going to let them out. He calls Moshe Rabbeinu back. It's the first time that before the Makkah, Paro is caving in. So you maybe call that the beginning of the Geula. I mean, you can point to different points and say that's the beginning of the Geula. Makkah's done, when the Makkahs began, when the Jews stopped working. Yet we don't say that's the beginning of the Geula. We say that 5 days before Yetzias Mitzrayim, on Shabbos Hagodol, when the civil war broke out in Mitzrayim, that miracle is considered the beginning. Why is that particularly? Why do we see that as the actual Haschalas HaGeula, the beginning of the redemption? We also need to understand what's its connection to Shabbos. Usually when there is a commemoration of any specific event, it's always connected to the day of the week, the day of the month that it occurred. But over here, we're connecting it after to Shabbos, and it doesn't make a difference when Shabbos is. This year, Shabbos is not going to be the 10th. Shabbos Hagodol is not the 10th. It's actually going to be the 8th of Nissan. This year, Shabbos. And so it could be every year, it can be different depending when Pesach comes out. So why are we connecting it to Shabbos? And even though there are reasons in halacha why the Chazal didn't want to institute the commemoration on Yud Nisan, and they chose to do it on on Shabbos, on connecting it to the day of the week on Shabbos before. But everything in Torah, the Rebbe says, is b'diuk. So we have to say that there is a specific diuk and perfection that the nace is taka connected to Shabbos. It's really connected to Shabbos, and that is the reason why this is Shabbos Hagodol. Okay. And to add to that, the relationship of Yetzias Mitzrayim to Shabbos is even greater emphasized this year. And the Rebbe is saying that regarding the year 1991, which happens to be the same situation this year, the year 2019, 5779, in the sense that Pesach is going to fall out. The first day Pesach is going to be on Shabbos. So it's not the same like Yetzias Mitzrayim, but it's the same like 1991. And the Rebbe is saying that there is a connection of Shabbos to Yetzias Mitzrayim this year, because Pesach comes out on Shabbos, and so it was in that year. Okay, so that's Sif Aleph. It's Sif Beis. In order to understand all of this, again, what's the question? What's the connection of Shabbos Hagodol Dafka to the beginning of the miracles, and why is this considered such a big naze? The Rebbe says one of the fundamental elements that we find regarding the Geula is Moshe Rabbeinu, is the Goel. I mean, we can look at the story and say, hey, the main thing is we got out of Egypt, and God was the power that took us out of Egypt. And then there were many, many factors involved, but we can dismiss those factors as, okay, they were components, but we don't have to emphasize them so much. But the Rebbe says, no, Moshe Rabbeinu is a major, major player over here. And there is a goyel. There's not just the geula, but there is a goyel. So much so that when Moshe Rabbeinu tried, if Moshe Rabbeinu would not be so pivotal, if Moshe Rabbeinu would not be so essential to the geula, meaning it just needed somebody, so it happened to be Moshe Rabbeinu, because you needed someone for the job. But we find that when Moshe Rabbeinu tried to excuse himself and get out of it, Hashem didn't let him off the hook. Hashem insisted that it has to be you. And Moshe Rabbeinu was giving good suggestions why others should take the job, Aaron HaKohen, and so on and so forth. Yet the Eibishter was insisting that it has to be Dafka Moshe. So we see from here that it couldn't be anybody else. In other words, there is a unique human being, or there's a unique neshama that is able to accomplish Yetzias Mitzrayim, and it's only that neshama that can do it. In our case, it's Moshe Rabbeinu. He is the only person fit for the job. Ad Kedei Kach that the Rebbe says in the Ara that even though Aaron also came along with Moshe Rabbeinu and he assisted him, in the sense that he was Moshe's interpreter, he was the speaker, because Moshe didn't have a clear speech. But that too, the Rebbe says in the Ara, is only because initially Moshe was supposed to have the full job. And he didn't need, because when Moshe Rabbeinu said, I can't speak, Hashem initially said to him, what do you mean you can't speak? Who do you think created a mouth to a person? Had Moshe let go and accepted that answer, then Moshe would have been both the power and the actual communicator. But it was the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu still insisted afterwards, Shlach Nabi Atishlach, so the Eibishter said to him, okay, good, you know what? I'm going to send the Aaron HaKohen to help you. Which means that it's not Aaron, it's Dafke Moshe Rabbeinu, that's the Koyach, he is the one that has to impact Yetzias Mitzrayim. The Rebbe says, let's read it in Yiddish, that these three lines the Rebbe used, their fun is moving, from here it's understood, as Moshe Tatif Shayches mit the Geula. That Moshe Rabbeinu has a very deep connection to the Geula, and the Fara Dafke Bekoyach Tzegoyel Zanidin. So Dafke Moshe Rabbeinu has the power to redeem the Jewish people. So much so, that Moshe Rabbeinu is the power of the Geula, that we find that it's not only that Geula, but we see that all the Geulas that are going to take place throughout all of history are all powered by Moshe Rabbeinu. Where do we find that? Chazal say, Goyel Rishon u Goyel Achron. The first Goel is the last Goel. That means that Moshe Rabbeinu, who accomplished the first Geula, he is the one who accomplishes the last Geula as well. And when we say the last Geula, we don't mean later Geulas, we mean the last and final Geula. It's the one that completes the job of redemption for all of eternity, for the entire world, and for all of existence. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. And especially since we know that Golus Mitzrayim was the shirish of all Goliyos. So even though technically Moshe Rabbeinu won't be the Goyel, because it has to be, it's Mashiach, it has to be an Einikol of David HaMelech, so from Shevet Yehuda, but since Golus Mitzrayim is the root of all exiles, so the key to Geula has to first be accomplished in Golus Mitzrayim, Once we break that galus, we're in a sense affecting all the geulas. So even though Mashiach does the geula, it's with the power of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's imbued in Mashiach Tzidkenu's neshama, the power of Moshe Rabbeinu. So we need to understand what's the significance of Moshe. So when we appreciate and when we understand the essence of the geula and its ultimate objective of what it needs to accomplish, and then we will look at the essence of who Moshe Rabbeinu is, not what he does, what he is in his very being. And obviously, because he is that way, that's how everything, it comes out in all of his doings. Who he is and what he is, which is a tremendous novelty, a tremendous power, an unbelievable power, that because he is who he is, that's why his actions and his doings reflect who he is, and that's the power that we need in order to accomplish the Geula. So we need to understand what's the essence of the Geula, both the Geula of Mitzrayim and the Geula and the future redemption. The truth is that not two redemptions. They're stage one and stage two of one objective. There's one thing that needs to be accomplished. It comes in phases, and that accomplishment is an impossible thing, and therefore the only one that can make it possible is an impossible being, and that impossible being is Moshe Rabbeinu. Why is Moshe Rabbeinu that impossible being? Because Hashem made him that way. But Seif Kol Seif, he is the one who is that impossible power that can bring about this impossible achievement, which is the achievement of redemption, beginning with redemption of Mitzrayim and finalizing in the complete redemption. So we begin Siv Gimel. What's the Nekuda Sabir? What's the point? It says the Tachlis of Geulas Mitzrayim. What was the Tachlis? Tachlis of Geulas Mitzrayim wasn't time to free a people from enslavement. That Hashem was looking at a people suffering and said, you know what, you guys suffered enough, let me free you. There was something deeper than that. And that is that what? And Hashem said, V'lakachti eschem li la'am. It says the four things, right? V'tzeisi, v'tzalti. These are all things, okay, v'ga'alti, I'll redeem you. But what's the bottom line? V'lakachti eschem li la'am. You will become my people. Which means there is a human race, a nation of human beings that are elevated to become a godly people. And what does it mean to become a godly people? First of all, they have a first-hand witness of the power of the Eibishter. And that is what they're going to achieve by Har Sinai, where Hashem is going to reveal himself to them, and he can say to them, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, I am God, your God, Asher Tzisicha Me'eretz Mitzrayim. So they're a people that can identify God, they can know him. No, to know the Eibishter intimately. That's number one. The purpose of Yetzias Mitzrayim is that Hashem wants a nation, a people that will know him. Phase one. Phase two. Once they will know him, they will devote themselves to serve him. And that means they will accept the Torah. How do they serve him? Through acceptance of the Torah. So this nation that intimately knows God devotes itself to know him. To serve him. And what's the content of the service? It's so beautiful, by the way, just parenthetically. We don't realize sometimes we read the Sichos and the Rebbe is talking and it's in Yiddish and it's long and realize that the Rebbe crystallizes in such a clear, concise manner in these short, in these like the Yiddish paragraphs, and they look so simple. But what the Rebbe does in these is that he crystallizes all of Judaism. He gives you the whole picture. Like what's it all about? It's so easy to be a Jew and totally miss the picture. And in these sichos, the Rebbe so clearly defines what it is. So again, Geula is all about we should intimately know God. As a result of that, we should devote ourselves to serving him. And what's the purpose of the service? So that we can reveal him in a permanent way in our lives. Okay, generally in the human experience is a godless experience. It's devoted and dedicated to serving of self, not serving the Eibishter. Right? Outside of a Yid serving Hashem, the world out there is obsessed with making it in life. What does it mean, making it in life? You do things in your life that satisfy yourself. Here we're talking about making God very real in your life. Okay? Hashem becomes a reality in your life, and that you'll live a life in divine consciousness, in service of Hashem. Okay? But the main point is that this has to be established in a manner when we're not talking about a momentary or a spiritual high. It's not about spiritual high. It's about a permanence, devotion, and dedication. Or rather, let me say it this way. It's a permanent presence of the Eibishter, of God, in each and every one of our lives. And that permanence of our life, of the Eibishter in our life, will translate into each and every one of us being a home for Hashem in our lives. Hashem is comfortable to live in us, and translate that permanent into a physical dwelling, which is the Mishkan. So that's why you see the order. When we went out of Mitzrayim, we received the Torah, we accepted to do His mitzvahs, and now Hashem feels comfortable to come live amongst us. So we actually make Him a Mishkan, which is a place where He doesn't just come to visit, like by Har Sinai, where He came and He kind of like, powerfully flashed His light to us. That's not it. Point is that He should permanently live with us, which is a Mishkan. But again, the Mishkan accomplishes it, but not really to the utmost. It translated later into a Beis HaMikdash, which is a far more of a permanent state for the Eibishter. But Beis HaMikdash didn't last forever, so it's ultimately going to translate into the third Beis HaMikdash, where Hashem will permanently live in this world. But that's not it. That's not yet the full accomplishment. Now comes the next accomplishment. From establishing godliness in us and in our Beis HaMikdash, in Yerushalayim, in Eretz Yisroel, that begins to impact, that has a powerful impact on the rest of the world. That means the rest of the world begins to experience godliness in their life, till God Himself in their life, and that all of humanity lives with an intimate awareness of the Eibishter. And the entire world, God fills this world. Basically, what we just said in very long words, Dira b'Tachtainim, that the Eibishter should have a dwelling place in the sum totality of all of Tachtainim. What the Rebbe just showed is that there are stages in it. And the stages has to start with a nation. Now you understand something. There's a bottleneck. What's the bottleneck? There is a constriction. We're created in the world, a world that, the way it's created, Olam HaLashon Helam, that has their concealment, there is no awareness of the divine. The Eibishter is outside, so to speak, outside of the experience of humanity, outside of the experience of the world. So the way this is all going to change is that we need first one people to have an enlightening experience, and that's Yetzias Mitzrayim. So that's why the Rebbe continues, and the Rebbe says that's why Yetzias Mitzrayim had to be done through miracles. Hashem is so amazing, so Hashem is all powerful. He could have made Paro have a change of heart and let the Jewish people out. If the objective is, why the violence? Why do we need all that violence? Why can't we just have Paro change his heart and say, hey, Jews, you can go. And we go up and we go to Eretz Yisrael and we have a change of heart from the 7 nations that are living there. They decide that Mongolia is going to be much better for them, and they move away, and we move into Eretz. Why? Who needed all the miracles for? And generally we know that Hashem doesn't like to mess with nature. But over here Hashem had to dafka mess with nature. Why? Because we need to come to know a supreme being. And in order to know the ultimate supreme being, we needed to see God's limitless power. We see the Eibishter, as He truly is, His power of Ein Sof, that He's not limited by anything. And how did Hashem display to us? We're not going to see physically Him. How did He display to us? Because you can't see Him. So how will He display this? He had to show an infinite power. A power that can override all of nature and all of existence. And that's the experience what happened to Yetzias Mitzrayim. And that was only stage 1, so that we get to witness this infinite being, so that we can devote ourselves and dedicate ourselves to serve Him. Now, if we are going to reveal godliness in the world, we're going to channel the Eibishter into the world. So we, the channel, have to become also freed from the constriction, from worldliness, and from the constrictions of nature, and from the blockages of nature. So from this godly revelation, that the Eibishter, the miracles that happened, came the next thing. We were freed from Mitzrayim. You see, these are 2 separate things. First, a display of Hashem. We're still in Egypt. That's what we find. The first 10 Makkahs, the Eibishter was doing the first 9 makas, it was like, wow, great godly revelation. But we were still, Avadim Ayino Lepara B'Mitzrayim. We're still enslaved. We're still entrapped. We haven't yet managed to free ourselves, especially from the internal constrictions, addictions, and things that we're subject to. We're subject to our bodily needs, our physical constrictions that hold us captive. So therefore, first thing is Gili Elokus, tremendous godly revelation. What did that do when we perceived that light and connected to that energy? Geula. It lifted us up from being stuck in whatever stuckness it is, from being enslaved to the various different dark things of in the world, and even not to the dark things, even to just nature itself. We're freed from that. That's the idea of going out of Mitzrayim, which is the idea of Cheres Amitis. Now, the epitome of this Cheres in us, obviously, both the epitome of Gili Elokus, godly revelation, which translates into Cheres, into a complete freedom to the Jewish people, and via us, it's going to channel to the rest of humanity, as we said before, is phase number 2, is the next Geula, the Geula of Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Geula that we're standing by right now, at the threshold of that redemption. We're going to see wonders again, and more so. The wonders that we're going to see now are going to make the wonders of Mitzias Mitzrayim look tiny and small and insignificant. There's going to be so much greater, these wonders. And then and what's going to happen then we're going to see everything. We're going to see the koyach habeligavul from the Eibishter. And thereby we're going to be able to live in a permanent godly state forever and ever. This koyach to reveal Eibishter down here in the world, and that we, the world, should be able to receive it. And if you remember, now I want to emphasize something, which I emphasized but didn't emphasize enough. I emphasized briefly, it's not enough. This can't be an outer worldly experience. Because if it's an otherworldly experience, then it defeats the purpose. Purpose is that this should become our permanent state of existence. For it to become our permanent state of existence, it has to become us. It can't remain hovering above us, which means we need to internalize it. Now we essentially are part of the creation. Okay? And we say, because it's not enough that our neshama internalizes it. Our body has to internalize it as well. That means that we, as human beings, need to internalize it. And it means that the world, mamash the world, our chelik ba'olam, our part, the world itself has to internalize it. And this is an opposite. This is an impossibility. Because what are we talking about internalizing? We're internalizing Eibishter, that's infinite, believable, and we are finite. And when we internalize it, it becomes permanent. Nothing in this world is permanent. The very definition of us and everything about us is that we're constantly changing. We're into one thing today, and tomorrow we're off. Everybody knows we start a diet, and how long does it last? We do this, it's very hard to be permanent. And here we're talking about permanence. So for that's the chiddush of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is the shatchen. Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who fuses the two together. What's the secret of Moshe Rabbeinu to do that? So in Perek Daled, the Rebbe is going to explain that the secret of, he's going to explain it in Perek Hey. But I think I'm going to let you over here. We're going to pick up next week about the power of Moshe Rabbeinu and who he is, why he has this power to fuse and to bring us together. And then we're going to, after that, connect this all, how this also applies to Yud Aleph Nissan and to the Shnas HaTzadik. Meanwhile, let's have a really, really happy Purim. A really, really happy Purim, and only good. And the women with the children, now you're getting that extra power of all the gatherings of the children, are for sure going to make it happen. So let's just do it. See you all in the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi Be'ezras Hashem B'Karev Mamish.